let's continue to have a show. And speaking of guys who may have a show this year, or not really a show, but a heck of a year, Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell is somebody that is said to be turning heads at OTAs. And Spencer Raxter, you've got a video.
I do.
So, we talking about the meat missile?
Talk about the meat missile.
Yeah.
What's your expectations for him and how important of a role that he'll play in defense in year 2?
Let me tell you, first off, he's a man. He's a grown man. He's really like taking control of this offseason the way he should take control of it. He's a true Mike backer. He's a guy that lives, breathes green dot mentality as a Mike backer. And he's done a really good job of actually, and all our guys have, just transforming their body because they've had a true offseason in the NFL. So he's done a good job with that. And then just watching him on the field, his zone drops, his mentality as far as going after the football has been outstanding. We only had 2 days of practice, and he's been doing a heck of a job. And just the way that he's leading the men as far as defense is impressive to see.
Ooh, that is some high praise from defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn about Jack Campbell, among others, of course.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
So if I'm going to go to football here, I'm going to go to Spenmo Rax. What does Aaron Glenn mean by a green dot linebacker when he's talking about this and that? What does that mean to the layman?
He means the captain. He means the guy who's called. The green dot is the guy who calls the plays for the defense. So Captain Jack is what they called him in college, and so he's exuding that same energy.
So it's pretty much the Jared Goff of the defense. He wears the helmet that the play calls come into. He's the one that's doing check and signals. That's a hell of a lot of responsibility, isn't it? Especially for a second-year guy. Now, I'm not saying it's unprecedented because we've seen first-year guys get this in other successful teams. But I guess my question to you, Flannel, and to the room, what do you take from what Aaron Glenn just said there?
I take that Aaron Glenn expects Jack Campbell to take as big a leap as anybody on this defense, because I think Aaron Glenn knows that Alex Anzalone, he obviously was fantastic last year. The best season of his career, was the captain of that defense, but Jack Campbell's more talented. Jack Campbell actually has the, I would say, the skill set and the size and the athleticism to be one of the better middle linebackers in the NFL. But also, I think what we learned last year, and you saw it as opposed to other linebackers who were rookies, playing middle linebacker, like in the NFL, is really hard, especially going up against NFL athletes as opposed to Big Ten West athletes. I know Jack Campbell really struggled a lot in coverage last year. And at the beginning, you have to read, you have to react, you have to diagnose plays. The defensive line a lot of times was porous as opposed to what we think it'll be this year. So I think that Aaron Glenn recognizes what Jack Campbell can be and has been seeing some flashes. And I think that that's a very good sign, because I don't think anybody thinks that Jack Campbell is a guy who's not going to work hard, who's not going to put in the time, who's not going to get the absolute most out of his talent. And even last year, we saw some flashes. He was pretty consistently good against the run, and he did have 95 tackles, which was second on the team. That's not everything, but that's not nothing either. So I would say expect a big season from Jack Campbell if you're asking me, and I think Aaron Glenn believes that as well.
Benny, what about you?
Yeah, I agree with what Flannel said. I expect a huge jump from Jack Campbell this year. I think DJ Reader being in front of him is going to help that as well, because he's going to, clog up those run holes, take some blockers, and Jack Campbell will be able to do what he does best, which is just be a psychopath and play downhill and hit ball. So I expect him to take a big jump. A lot of people were not happy with his rookie season, but if you take out the amazing rookie seasons of Gibbs and Branch and Laporta, Jack Campbell didn't have a bad rookie season by any means. He was second on the team in tackles. He really started coming into his own in the end of the year, and he started making plays. So I think we were just spoiled with 3 fantastic rookie seasons that a good rookie season looked bad in some people's eyes.
Yeah, and I know this isn't a perfect gauge, but going into the draft, there was talk about, could they draft Jack Campbell? Jack Campbell was not really talked about, but guys around that time, like a Dian Henley or a Drew Sanders or I forgot who the other one was, but still a couple of those guys. Trenton Simpson, good one. They basically, those guys and they got drafted later, they were basically special teams guys the whole year. They didn't really do a whole lot on their respective defenses. And Jack Campbell, although he didn't get a ton of snaps at the beginning of the year, became more ingratiated into the defense, and was basically an every down player by the end of the year. And he had some flashes. Like I said, coverage was kind of rough. Those NFL running backs and tight ends, they hit a little bit differently. And
than Big Ten ones.
Than the Big Ten West. And Jack Campbell, super athlete in the Big Ten West, and I would say more of a league average linebacker when it comes to NFL. Maybe a little bit above that, obviously, but you guys understand what I'm saying. Korean Jesus, I got to go to you. What are your expectations for Jack Campbell this year?
I have high expectations for Jack Campbell. I am really intrigued on how he's going to take another step forward this year. I also think another very underrated thing in that video of Aaron Glenn is him talking about getting his body right. And I think that's such a big thing that this staff focuses on is everyone being in the correct shape, in the correct build to do what they need to do for this team.
For what they're going to ask.
Yes, for what they're
right?
going to
The
ask.
biggest thing, one of the biggest thing out there is there's two things, right? So you've taken the green dot and you've taken the Mike linebacker off of Anzalone, which means that that's the graduation, and having Anzalone there, right, to help him every step of the way, but not have to be the main guy. It's time to go up. But when these guys are talking about being, he's a man. That's the first thing he said.
Yeah.
He's a man.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What do we have on this defense, Spenny, that, you know what, we started to get last year or whatever? Isn't that what we're more like looking right down the line? Hutch.
Yes.
That ain't a boy no more. That's a man.
Mm-hmm.
Lee McNeil. That's a man. He's only going to be more of a man having DJ Reader beside him, right? You bring in Davenport and, you know, you got men, like men in your backfield, men that have matured over a year, knowing in the offseason. The biggest thing there too, and I know this, right, is you've had a taste before you know what it's all about until you said, yeah, there are growing pains because the speed is a little bit different, but until you experience that and get burned, then you don't know what you have to do. You got a year away, go get your body right, get your mind right. This is everything along the lines, right? So is this fair to say the two guys that the coach and the defensive coordinator have come out, Jamison Williams and Jack Campbell. Those two guys are the two guys on offense and defense that if we're going to go to the next level and win a Super Bowl, those are the guys. We know what to expect out of the rest of them, but those are the guys that have to step up either with big plays, big yardage, consistently, stuff like this. And those are the two that we're hearing about out of these OTAs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those are the first-round picks that Brad Holmes has made that haven't quite popped yet to the level that like Jahmyr Gibbs or Aiden Hutchinson and Penei Sewell had. But we'll see. I think it's a big year for both of them. And Stephen Baffey brought up something great in the chat because it's something that I've always said. It's a little self-serving, but hey, it is what it is. The Lions defense has a theme. They like guys that do not just stop in the run game, but dominate in the run game. Making opponents one-dimensional is a huge advantage. I know I'm going to sound like a broken record at some point, but if you look at PFF, something that the guy who usually sits here hates and I love.
No, we don't follow that in this
I
show.
follow that.
Of course you do.
Hey, Jack Campbell was
Pro
one
Football Flannel.
Hey.
It's really called.
But you guys are going to like this. Jack Campbell was one of the many players on the Lions defense whose grade skewed higher in the run game than anything else. It was him. It was Kirby Joseph. It was Brian Branch, John Kaminsky, Aleem McNeil, and DJ Reader did last year for Cincinnati, and he's coming over. And it all led up to a run defense that was pretty damn dominant. I would say second in the NFL in rushing yards allowed per game. And that's where I look at the Jack Campbell flashes, in which he's shown some things that have already made him a pretty serviceable linebacker at times last year, and sometimes even a good one. And if you want to talk about the Alex Anzalone angle, it's my guess, I'm obviously not there, but I can kind of deduct some things, that Alex Anzalone probably sees the smarts and the football IQ that Anzalone already has in a Jack Campbell, but Jack Campbell just has a higher ceiling. Maybe Alex Anzalone is thinking, I can help make this guy better as well. And that would certainly, if you can get like the upside of a Jack Campbell with everything that Alex Anzalone provided last year, that's a hell of a player. That's a guy that could be sniffing some Pro Bowls someday. I will just say that. But yeah, Jack Campbell is certainly a guy that I expect to take a big leap next season and to be, I don't know about one of the better players on defense, but I'd say your best linebacker isn't out of the question.
I don't think so either.
I think leading your team in tackles isn't out of the question.
I don't think so either.
I think being like second, third, or fourth in tackles for loss isn't out of the question. Maybe even a couple of sacks, maybe even a pick or two. And I know that that's aggressive, but he was the number 18 overall pick, and he showed enough flashes to give me some faith that he's going to be a good football player in this league.